Alright, hello. There's been some progress on the HC6 from Cross RC, as you can see. Now what I've done is build the chassis, or at least as far as I can go, and then spray it all. So if you watch the unboxing, you'll have seen I didn't know masses about this kit or what's in it, or the original truck to identify all the parts, but luckily the manual is very good, and it didn't take too long to get to this point. This all went together pretty easily. It looks fairly complicated, but as I say, the manual's good. You just follow it step by step, it's clear. Other than it misses out the step of how to put the front suspension together. Luckily, you've already put the rear seesaw part together. All of these leaves are separate from each other. Half of them are plastic. I think there's 3 metal ones and the rest are plastic in there. They've all got to go in the right order. But obviously you've taken all of those out of the equation, so you know you've only got certain leaves of certain lengths left. Even then, there were 2 that don't seem to get used, just from looking at the pictures of later stages. So before I bolted everything on and together, I took all these axles apart and the gearbox apart and the transfer case apart. They were all greased technically, but it was the thinnest possible coating, so I've added my own marine grease. You can't see it, it's back there. One axle was 0.1 out. There was 0.1 millimeters of play on one part, and that was it. Everything else was shimmed perfectly. Not the same with the gearboxes. They needed quite a bit of shimming to stop what do you call it? The spindles. To stop the spindles inside moving side to side. Once I'd done that in the gearbox, all was good. Happy with that. Filled it up with grease. Great. The transfer case was a bit more of an issue. There was a funny notch. I turned it around just gentle, and it could catch where each gear is on a spindle, and it's held on one side with a through pin and on the other with an E-clip. They could move just a fraction. Each gear could move up and down, and I think that was allowing it to twist as well. So when the 2 twisted at just the wrong angle, it would catch. So basically I changed my shimming from outside of that to inside of that. Now the gear can't move, now it turns really smoothly and it seems fine. Another thing to watch out for, and this was pointed out to me by Ant RC Fun channel, my friends over there, they're very good with the cross kits. They've got quite a few. They pointed out any of these axles, I think on any of their kits, you need to shim the axle stubs from moving in and out at the ends, or they'll click like 0.3, 0.5 of a millimeter on there. This all probably took 6 or 7 hours of bolting together. So long as you read the instructions carefully each time, it's pretty easy. So you get 7 tyres, all with foams, so that's good. So you do have a spare tyre, but the spare wheel, you get, that's 5. You get 6 metal bead locks and 1 plastic spare with some metal rims, bead lock rims, and it saves a bit of weight because it's going to be heavy. So the metal bead locks themselves, they're really nice, as you can see. The inner rings are these are really nice. They're quite thick. They're very light because they're alloy. They're quite thick and nicely beveled edges. It's nice to see a bit of quality there. Most of the kit the quality is impressive, I have to say. You know, a lot of it, I'm not unhappy with any of it, but some of it's a little bit disappointing that it's pressed steel, flat steel, sort of pressed into shape like this. Transfer case mount, this cross member up here that's holding on the rear seesaw, and the bumper itself is actually pressed out of a flat sheet. But in reality, they still look good, and you know, they're still going to do the job. It's a chunky thing. What I'm happy about is there's a scale winch. It's just a dummy winch, but that will sit on this funny resin plastic plate. That needs building. The spare tyre holder, that needs building. The whole body sort of kit, this is a nice simple bit, but it's going to take some work. The one benefit of doing a military truck like this is military trucks in real life, obviously they're not that well sprayed. You know, they don't try to make them look lovely. They're just supposed to be camouflage, and it's just some guy with a spray gun just runs up and down. So if it looks bad when I'm finished, it's authentic. So, you know, the one thing I did have serious trouble doing was putting in these, see these little rubber towers? There's one there, bump stops basically. They poke into the chassis rails through small holes, and they have essentially like arrows on them. You poke them through and then it holds it in the rubber. That's not a very good description, is it? Getting these bits in was a nightmare. I just could not get them through. They would just squish up and expand on the wrong side, and just they wouldn't go through the hole. They just didn't want to know. I tried countersinking the hole. I tried lubricating them, first with washing up liquid and then with actual grease. I put them in a vise and tried to press them in slowly. I tried to hammer them in, you know, to shock them in. Nothing worked. In the end, I had to, as you can see, I had to file them into points so that there was no lump to build up behind them, and even then it was really hard to get them in. I haven't destroyed the lip that's going to stop them pulling back out though, so hopefully it won't affect it, but it's strange somehow. After doing all of this, there was one really easy looking step, was just I'll plug those in, and it must have taken me 3/4 of an hour to get 4 of those in. It was hard. But it's done now. The nightmare is over. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. The steering servo is going to sit here. I've gone for 35 kilogram waterproof. I've got a shift servo coming. That's going to sit here on a bracket on the side. The rest of it, I don't know where it's going to go still. Gone for another Hobby Wing 1080. Everybody loves these, and for good reason. They're really easy to program. They work really well. It sounds stupid, but they've got a really good switch as well. It's like a remote switch that you can stick somewhere else. It's waterproof as well. Very easy to use. I love them, and they're cheap. About £40. If you haven't tried one, definitely give it a go. Oh, yeah, one strange thing you may have spotted already just looking at that. The deliberate mistake, weirdly isn't my mistake, is the logo on here. It's upside down. I checked and I checked because I assumed it was just me and I had the rails upside down, but I didn't. They're all drilled uniquely. You can't even swap them left to right because of the cutout here. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. It won't affect me because it will all be sprayed and it will be covered up. But if you did want to leave that, that might be a bit of a shame. I think that's about it for this. This is the last time it's going to be shiny. I'll see you next time for another update. Cheers.